In this video lesson, we're going to wrap up our work in the counter area and right here in the grid selection area. So let's get started. First thing, let's learn how to show and hide grid lines. So right here is show and hide grid lines. And notice when I turn that off, the grid lines are no longer visible in my track, even though I'm still in grid mode. So I'll turn the grid lines back on. If I switch to slip mode, the grid lines are still there, but they are not, the grids are not active. In other words, I can place the cursor or pencil in notes any place I want to and not have to worry about them snapping to the grid. So let's go back to grid. In MIDI editing or MIDI programming, you'll almost always want to have the grid view enabled. All right. Next, let's turn our attention here to my grid selection, which we looked at in the previous video lesson, and also right here to the pencil icon and the note icon right next to it, and also this number 127. And you'll notice when I mouse over that, it says default note velocity. Note velocity is something that is recorded with each MIDI note that determines, or that says, or it's embedded in the MIDI note message, that it says how hard or how fast or with what velocity I struck the MIDI keyboard or the USB keyboard controller that I was playing these notes on. 127 is the highest number, and when I start using my pencil tool, that will give me the loudest note for each note that I pencil in, as if I was really playing the keyboard as hard as I possibly could for each note. Okay? Let's go ahead and pencil in some notes. So I'm going to go ahead and pencil in a drum pattern, and for my sound source, I'm going to be using Easy Drummer. And we'll be revisiting Easy Drummer in detail in another lesson. So let's go ahead and pencil in a snare, or I'm sorry, a kick and a snare. So our kick and a snare, our snare will normally be on beats 2 and beat 4. So I'm going to go down to 8th note grid and pencil in a kick drum here on beat 1, right at the beginning, and beat 3, right at the beginning. I'm using an 8th note because with drums, it doesn't matter how long of a note you have. I could have a whole note, but the drum doesn't ring any longer. So I typically use shorter notes or note values when I'm drum programming because it allows me flexibility when penciling in more notes further down the road. All right, I'll go ahead and pencil in a snare. And now I'll pencil in a hi-hat. And before I pencil in my last one, notice every time I pencil in a note, I get my note info right above the note I just penciled in here, or whatever note I have selected, which is the note name, the velocity of that note, and I've been penciling them in with the highest velocity possible, so 127. And this up arrow, which is release velocity. On older MIDI keyboards, it not only did your MIDI program record the velocity with which you play the note, but it also recorded the velocity with which you let go of the key or release the note. All right, so let's pencil in that last note, and let's play our pattern. Okay, let's go ahead and just to show you the difference of what happens when we pencil in a note with a lower velocity, I'm going to change this to 88. And now I'll pencil in a couple of additional kick drum notes right here and right here. Those are kind of lead-in notes or ghost notes that will give the drum, just vary the pattern a little bit. And that is why when I was entering notes, I did it with 8th notes because I knew further down the road I'd want to make this kick drum pattern a lot busier, or at least a little bit busier. So I wasn't hampered by having all those longer quarter notes in the way, and I could pencil in some more 8th notes. Okay, let's go ahead and also, before I hit play, notice that these notes are of a lighter shade, and the shading of a MIDI note indicates how loud or soft it is, or what the range of velocity is, all the way from 127, the darkest shade of blue, to the very lightest shade of blue is the softest, which has a velocity level of 1. And so let's just go ahead and listen to this and see what the difference is. And so you can hear with that lighter or that lower velocity level, this note has a little bit of a lead-in beat to this one. And I'm going to have to end this lesson, which it's okay because we were going to end here anyway, because I've got a little distortion in my DAW that I've been getting from creating these videos in ScreenFlow. Okay, so let's wrap it up there. Oh, the last one, and before even though just put up with the distortion, I really apologize for it. If I want to edit MIDI notes or select a MIDI note, if I turn this speaker icon off, every time I select a note, it will not make any sound. So that's kind of nice too. Okay, so let's wrap it up there, and we'll continue with another lesson.